of my class today. So we're gonna do this online video. So just watch it. So unobtrusive research is about something that like people leave the tracks, right? So we can actually do the research without having any interaction with the people out there or with the respondent or the subjects. So we just find all the tracks that people have been left. And then you just start studying about them and trying to figure out what were the patterns that they left and figuring out how they actually have been changed based on the different period of time. Or you can also do something about the social behavior. But one thing that is very unique about this type of method research is that we are not going to affect the people, or we are not affecting the subject. So we don't really have the interaction with the people most of the time. And these can actually eliminate or minimize many of the threats that we learned before, right? For the research, including the reactivity, including the social desire. So these kind of methods, it can be quantitative. It can also be qualitative. And common way to conduct the unobtrusive research is to analyze all the records that we have available right now. So that's why people leave tracks, and then we just go to find all the tracks that they left, and then we try to understand, trying to investigate what patterns they have, or you're going to investigate certain events in depth or behaviors as well. So three common methods, and one of them, or maybe two of them, you might heard before. The first one is content analysis. So we analyze the content. The second one is we take some statistics that has been available out there, and then we just take them down, we analyze them. So basically it's kind of like the census. And the last one is historical, or we can also say historical and comparative analysis. So first one, content analysis, we actually examine all the artifacts, right? Our unit of analysis will be those artifacts. So there can be some ads, magazine ads, ads on the newspaper if you're in the ads, or you can also find those kind of advertisements that has been aired before on the television and trying to study about them. What are the patterns? We can be also some books, novels, music, TV shows as well. We're trying to understand the TV shows, how the TV shows change from the previous, from the pre-Hallyu era until the Hallyu era, Hallyu 1.0 and Hallyu 2.0. How are those TV shows actually has been changed? As well as a lot of things. Graffiti, you can also go to get some trash and study about the social life of people. So a lot of time we're trying to answer who say what before, to whom, and why, and how, and with what effect that it can be observed. It is not a literature review for content analysis that you have to understand. You have to analyze, look for the patterns. It is not just like describe what you have been read before in a book or what you read before, but you try to understand the content of the books. What are the ideology that the books actually talk about, and what effect that it may have on the society as a whole. So it's really, really useful when we're trying to understand about things like cultural. I'll show you an example, political event or political ads. Are you trying to understand about some political figures when they gave the speech? So we're trying to take back all the videos that we available and try to analyze what are the speech, what are the contents, and find all the patterns. You can also find all the videos like has been released in the media online, and then find all different presidential before in South Korea. Then you analyze their patterns. Are they using the same keywords? Are they using the same frames, or etc.? And then you can frame it saying that all presidents in South Korea, when they're giving the speech regarding the campaign during the election, this is the way that they frame the messages, as well as how our media pattern is going on, especially when we talk about the advertisements later. So because direct observation of individuals either it's not really possible or really ideal, maybe it's a huge thing, so you're unable to observe the president, right? So what you can do is analyze the content that have been published related to the political figures. So, or you want to start to study about something historical documents has been so many years ago, like 19, maybe 18 centuries or something, 18 in the 18s, and then you want to study about news, and then you have to go to find all the old newspaper, trying to understand the event or how it actually works from the past until now. How is the advertisement on the newspaper change? Okay, as well as the TV show. Especially if you're interested in Hallyu, you know, like how the Hallyu actually changed regarding, maybe you can study about the songs that have been coming out during the Hallyu 1.0 and Hallyu 2.0, and as well as the idol as well, trying to understand the pattern, how it actually changed. For example, it can say like, are men more often quoted than women in the economic news? Because economic is hard news and always related to the female, or is more masculine. So there's less likely that women or something related to the female or feminism will be mentioned in economic news. As well as you can also try to understand how the romance is framed in all the Korean dramas now and before. Are they going to be different? Are they still similar? How are the patterns actually have been changed? So topics that are actually quite available for content analysis mostly, but then it is a broad topic. So you can actually, based on your interest, you can actually go into different dimensional aspect to trying to understand about the content has been released before or available right now for you. So cultural differences, you can say like whether French popular fiction places more emphasis on the themes of love compared to American pop fiction, or maybe not just fiction or like the story you can do in the drama, or maybe in South Korea you can do a comparison. So cultural differences, whether the cultural products in South Korea will be so much different than the cultural products in America. So the second thing is about the political expression. So British pop music in the 1960s are more politically cynical than the German pop music of the same era. You ask this question and trying to figure out. So you're trying to analyze both music, the lyrics, the way they express, and how are the differences, as well as the campaign strategies about the election campaign. So political candidates who focus or concentrate on the concrete interest-based issue more likely to be elected. So you're trying to take up all the previous campaign, how they actually promote themselves in the talk, the debate, and everything, and then compare like if are those who actually talk about the concrete issues, the political issues of the interest of the public, of the citizen, are they going to be more likely to be selected or be elected, become then presidents? You just compare. Well, there are several classic examples in the book here. So the first one will be like analyze the newspaper reports here. So they analyze the newspaper reports, all the newspaper, and then of course you only select certain, trying to understand certain content. So Black men, they're trying to understand about the races as well as the raping cases. And then the second one is also a regional newspaper, trying to understand about the major social trend in the United States. So basically you have to do a lot of study, as well as TV violence study. So trying to understand about the violent TV programs, how they actually being related to the male products. Also on the media ownership. So you can see like, because, you know, like in a lot of times, a lot of media companies, they actually own the newspaper as well. So media is like, you know, like the film companies, they might have some ownership regarding certain newspaper or magazines or music companies. So it's like a huge organization. So this study, I think this study is quite interesting because it's trying to explore, understand about like whether the newspaper, when they are actually belong to a certain movie company, are they going to like give more favorable, positive reviews to those movies that actually produced by their parent company, that company, okay? So what are the procedure when you actually want to take the content analysis into the action? So first thing you have to understand about the unit of analysis, and then what are you going to observe? those are quite different, but then it can be the same thing as well as how are you going to sampling them. Remember the sampling method. So after you got sampling, you got all the things, collected your material to be analyzed, then you have to understand about how are you going to code it. So coding will be a really huge part in the content analysis. It is a process for you to transform all the raw data, like TV screen, everything. You don't really have text, you don't have numbers, you have to make them into certain standardized form. So things that we have here is the manifest and latent coding. And you also have to understand about the code categories, and you're counting them, how many times it appears maybe, and then you have to keep record everything, you put notes. And after all, everything, then you conduct an analysis. It can be a statistical analysis, or it can also be your subjective analysis here. So first thing you have to do is you have to define your population. Of course, who are you going to study? What kind of content you will be studying? Is it all political news article from certain national newspaper? Is it certain country? Are you going to do the comparison between two different countries? And then you decide your unit analysis, and you select your sampling strategies. And then you can have your create a sampling frame, then you select which part of the articles. So sampling content, let's talk about sampling first. So it is a whole process where the content you will include in your study. Newspaper, you want to use newspaper articles. Maybe you can do drama, but sometimes the drama is too long. You might want to do some episodes, just several. Maybe social media posts that you are interested in, trying to understand what people actually post about, or maybe what people are commenting about. I'm so curious a lot of time, like what people think about this. I'm not really interested in what people post about. Sometimes I'm really curious about how people make the argument below, the content on the comment section. So interesting. So, or you can analyze the songs, the books, and everything. All the media artifacts, you can actually take them and then make it into certain analysis. So, because you don't usually study all possible content, right? So much. Let's say if you want to study about the Hanliu from the 1.0 to pre-Hanliu until nowadays, there's so many medias has been released, right, regarding the Korean pop, K-pop, and everything K-drama. It is impossible that you take every single material to put into your sample to actually make it into study. So you have to define how are you going to get them, what type of units you're going to use that will be in your sampling or in a sample. So you have to define your sampling frame. So, of course, sampling these strategies is really important. Generalization, and you have to complete within the available resources. Don't pick too less, okay, and don't pick too much. You'll reduce the bias, okay. So then you have to understand about the unit of analysis. It refers to, remember, unit of analysis is the one that we want to describe or compare. It's the one that we want to investigate. And in this study is about the artifacts, your unit of analysis. But then it is also a unit that you will go to get sample. Let's say the unit of analysis will be a book, or maybe it'll be a newspaper articles. You have to decide what you want to analyze or code during the whole content analysis process. Can be newspaper, TV commercial as well, maybe about the countries, the government, is it the song lyrics or the film, or maybe the director. I want to know about the art of how the art direction of those directors. And then we have the unit of observation. It is what you're going to collect or record, what you're going to observe to make the code or to measure. So it can be it can be same as your unit analysis, but it might not be as well, because when you want to observe certain things, so you observe the news article, because what you want to understand about your unit analysis is about the country, but then you use that news article to observe, to analyze, but your study conclusion will be regarding that country. Okay, so it's kind of like mess here. So are some countries' media more likely than others to criticize their national governments? So what's the unit analysis here? We want to understand about the country. Okay, we want to understand about the country. And then the country will be like Korea, Japan, and USA because we want to do comparison. So our unit analysis will be the country. And how are we going to observe this? We use the news articles published in each country. Okay, then we make a content analysis and then we investigate, we try to analyze, and we came up with the findings. But the finding is not about the news media, it's about the country, right? So you are trying to compare countries. So your goal is to make conclusion about the countries, not about the individual articles. But to do that, you have to observe and analyze news article because that where the content actually have. So there are several sampling technique we learned before in the class. So randomly, systematic sampling, stratified sampling, cluster, as well as the multi-stage sampling. You can also use all these not just only on the human or the subjects. We can also use those strategies when we're trying to involve in selecting the content to be analyzed for us, your study. So let me give you an example here. Let's say you want to study whether the men's product for the men's, right? Maybe like the shave cream or something. So are more likely to be advertised during the violent TV program. So when you watch certain shows or something, there's like violent, maybe something like more involved with fighting and everything. Are they going to release more men's product in the for the advertisement during the advertisement period or more about the women products? So the unit of analysis here will be the commercial, okay? That advertisement, commercial. And the unit of observation will be both the commercial as well as the TV program that is aired at the same time. So I know like people are watching a lot of Netflix now today, you don't really see the commercials, but this is an old studies, and always if you're still watching a TV, you know what are the commercials like, right? You're watching the show and after that, several minutes later, you'll be like, oh, pop up certain commercials. So they're analyzing the whole program as well as the commercials. So the sampling frame will be the TV programs from channel. So try and set a little bit smaller, make the frame. TV programs from channel 2, 4, 9 between a certain times, like 7 to 11 p.m. And then sample selection will be they will randomly pick 12 program time blocks from a week. Okay, data collection. So they code each commercial. Is this commercial for men's product? How violent is the program it aired in for the TV show? So they're trying to compare the average violence score that relates to whether it is a man products commercial or others. So subsampling, of course, you're not necessarily just involved, just stop at the unit of analysis. You can keep going with it, like because a media product is so huge. For example, like if you want to analyze a novel, you might not read the whole books, right? Or maybe a series of books like Harry Potter's. So you might observe paragraph from selected novel, just a paragraph and paragraph. So the media content can be so many layered, and sampling will reflect those layers. For example, you want to do a TV show, a Running Man, so like so many seasons, or which season, or maybe what episode, and maybe some specific scenes that involve only women, that involve only certain celebrities. That is how you're going to do the subsampling, multi-stage. So if you're going advanced a little bit, your analysis can involve a lot of levels. For example, you want to study about how journalists can be so different in the way that they portray about the news regarding the climate change. So the unit of analysis will be your journalist. Okay, I wanted to understand about the journalist, whether it is a female, whether the gender is male or female, because you can see who are reporting, right? The names, or maybe they are maybe having more experience in the field or etc. And then your unit of observation is what? Articles, because we have to read how they write the articles, right? Then only you can portray how they actually use the style to conduct or write content. So, and then your sampling is you're going to select like several journalists what they want to study here and there. And then you will select several articles per journalist, maybe 10, 10, 10, 10. Maybe you have 5 journalists you want to study, and then you have 10 articles per journalist, then you have 50, and then you quote each articles, check them and everything, and you aggregate by the journalist. So this is like a multiple stage. First, you have to select, maybe you have to select the news outlet as well. Like maybe this outlet is more likely to be ideological, relates to the liberal, the other one maybe relates to conservative. So you have start from the news organization or news outlet, then you select the journalists, several of them, then articles, and then you quote each article. So it's going to be like so many steps you can actually take. So coding is a process of transform. Now we're trying to transform everything into something that is we have to understand, categorize, and it has to be standardized. Okay, it can be text, can be visuals, can be music or speech. So this means that you're trying to classify all the content based on the conceptual framework that you learned before. Or maybe you will have to do some coding like tag when these certain keywords came out, it's going to be meaning of something. And what are the keywords relates to gender differences, okay, feminism or masculine keywords. And then you quantify them. Remember, quantify, we're trying to turn something that is qualitative into quantitative, quantifiable data, numbers, okay, so that we can make sure all our observation can be more systematic when we take into the analysis step. So there are 2 types of content analysis, especially in the coding. One is the manifest coding. The other one is the Linden coding. Okay. Manifest coding is more likely to be, is more to increase clarity here. Okay. It can be replicate, but the Linden coding is allow us to understand a more rich information about the meaning behind the books. What are the ideologies or emotional things related to a certain piece of media or the movie, like a film. You're trying to understand the meaning of a film. So first, the first one's okay, manifest coding is more likely to be objective because what you're going to do is you're going to find the keywords there. Okay, let's say if I want to analyze the novel, about how romance is this novel, because I'm going to count how many times the word of the love will show up. Okay, I'm gonna count every single, take the whole like 1,000 pages, I'm going to count how many love coming out. So and then I write each chapter and everything, so I make a record under what circumstances the love shows and how many love the words of the love shows up in that novel. So I write it. Okay, so this novel will have like 245 love keywords, and then these books will have the same novel, and then but it's going to be like maybe 25, only 25 times. So this is how we actually do the manifest coding. We find the keywords and how many times it appears, and we note down. So this is also similar when you're trying to do the news headline analysis. You're trying to find how many times the keywords are there. Like in a newspaper from maybe a month, 30 days, let's say 30 days newspaper headline, you pick all of them, and then trying to understand about the war, right? About the war between currently happening. You're trying to find about the keywords. How many times they actually mention about the Palestine, how many they actually mention about the Israel. And are they framed with negative or positive context? So you just pick them. It is kind of like the objective, you don't really have to use your own subjective personal thought insight. But you have to, one thing here is that a novel without the word of love, it can be so romantic as well, right? The way that it express. So a lot of time when you do the manifest coding, things what happen here is that sometimes the high frequency of certain words may not be representing at all. So a novel with a really, really high frequency of the word love may not be really romantic at all. But then if you do the counting, it means that the number will be the same, right? Even though I throw this book to you to read, we'll come up with this quite similar numbers that the love appears. So the reliability is really, really high. However, it is low validity because it doesn't really accurately present how romantic the novel is. I mean, it can have a lot of love, but whether it is really touching your hearts, being so romance, it still depends on the overall writing of the novel. So the validity will be very low. Latent coding is more onto the subjective. So this is where you're actually trying to interpret the entire unit of the analysis and make your subjective assessment regarding what you agree upon with. I'll show you one example. It's a really interesting example. So we're trying to look for not just the number of the words, we look for the signs, the meaning, or maybe the way that the language they use, the expression, is just more likely to relate to our own researcher own subjective interpretation. Of course, this will be more valid, right? When you learn about subjective things. But thing is that because if I throw the same book to you, the same media content to you, you might think it differently. So what happens when we think differently? Because we will not have the same answer, right? Or similar answer, right? So it'll be less reliable. The reliability will be low. However, because it gives you a really more accurate answer because you interpret every single thing and then put on your subjective interpretation, the subjective point of view, as well as you analyze every single meaning of the symbols or sign or how they express. So it will be more likely to close to the reality and it will be more valid. So examples here. So look at this. This is Donald Duck. So you can see like, oh, Donald Duck. You guys know Donald Duck, right? So I see you're an up-to-date nation. Have you got phone? Have you got the telephone? Only trouble is only one has wire. It is not, it is a hotline to the World Loan Bank. What I talk about is about what? Differences. Talk about what? You don't really understand, right? So this is a comic. You think that comic are fun for kids. People read the comics. But I want you to look and there's a thirsty looking up good. Okay, group. Okay, hey people, throw down your banners and have free lemonades. Why he's trying to sell the lemonades? What are we seeing here? We're trying to understand not by the keywords. We're trying to understand the whole picture. What are these trying to tell us? Is it something about freedom of speech? Is it something about earning the money? Even though we don't really have, like the Donald Duck is asking people just don't go to having this kind of protest or something, rally, just come to have my lemonades. Or maybe he's selling something. And this, I'll make people wear meters on their chest and every breath, even the breath, everything, it'll cost them money. Talk about money. Donald Duck is talking about money. Things that you might not be heard before, or maybe you have been heard about. This book is called The How to Read Donald Duck. This is a really old book, and it was a content analysis about the comic has been published in different countries, and it was published there, and then they're trying to understand about the content, even though it is just a Donald Duck like cartoon like for kids. But when you actually look into it, interpret it, the meaning of every single scene or the stories, you can see like they actually have certain hidden ideology messages behind. So these authors, they actually examine the book, not examine the book, examine all the cultural products that regarding the Donald Duck. So they focus on how the stories symbolically represent and normalize the US imperialist ideology. They also interpret all the messages and what are the ideologically structures that are inside the narrative. As for example, a lot of time you can see like Donald Duck is actually promoting what? Promoting capitalism. Okay, you can watch the movie.
And that's how I became rich, making the little slices grow. Money shouldn't be idle and must be put to work, you know.
Oh, yeah? How about all that idle dough you got stashed away?
Oh, no, lads. This is just petty cash. Moves in and out each day. If I sat on my money, I might just as well be stranded on a desert island for all the good 'twould do me. I couldn't eat it, couldn't wear it, couldn't use it. Oh, I can't bear it. Help! Money should never stagnate, but like ocean currents, circulate. Like the ocean currents control the world's weather, you see, circulating money controls the economy. Money must keep moving to fulfill its obligation.
And if you squeeze it too tight, you'll stop its circulation.
That's a bunny one, and how true.
We don't want that to happen to our money. We want our piggy bank to grow.
Well, making a shrewd investment is the soundest way I know. This way, please, prospects.
Okay, so you can see like actually so you can see like it was a cartoon, right, for like 5 years old, 10 years old, 12 years old, they're watching it, you don't know anything, but unconsciously they are sending you the messages about the capitalism. How is the capitalism talking about? Everything is about the getting all the money, being upper class is better and everything. They are also sending a lot of US like the imperialism ideology within all the comics. Actually, if you are really interested in something like this about the cultural, especially the US imperialism, you can actually get this book. It's really interesting. They talk about Donald a lot. So you cannot imagine, right? Can you imagine that what we have been exposed about? I mean, I watch a lot that actually become some things that is so serious about. So we have to do what? Content analysis by your subjective assessment. Then you can reveal all the hidden ideology here. In this case, they don't actually go into understand about how many times the money appears or something. They're trying to understand the hidden thing, the meaning behind every scene that the Donut comic or the cartoon has been made. So this is one of the example. Okay, so how are you going to conceptualize as well as create the code of categories? Of course, you have to. A lot of time we will follow several theoretical that has been established. If you believe that some editors are liberal, one example here, if you want to do something about a news organization, because some news organization, they are more likely to be, not in South Korea, I think, maybe in the States, they're more likely to be liberal. The other one will be more conservative. So you have to ask yourself, what are the specific features that actually support how you think about that one? Whether the particular words that they use, is it a tone, or whether when they talk about the political issues, do they have obviously stated their position, like supporting what issues, and that issues is supported by which party? So you have to first have to understand about how are you going to code this thing. You have to make your code. You have to make your own code. And then each variables that you're trying to code, it has to have the operational definition, which means what belongs to where. And it has to be mutually exclusive. Okay. So for example, if you want to analyze political sides, all the political sides in South Korea, you cannot code like this political science is actually consists of both liberal and conservative. No, they have to be mutually exclusive. A side can be either liberal or conservative, or maybe you want to create another one. It's called neutral, neither liberal, neither conservative. Okay, maybe in the neutral standard or more individuals. So you have to first, what category that you want them to be. As well as there are many different levels of measurements can actually use in content analysis that we learned before. For nominal, of course, like, right, this or that, liberal or conservative, categorize, liberal or conservative, or maybe neutral, And you can do ordinal as well, the level measurements. Or maybe I don't want this to see like whether they are liberal or conservative. I want to see the level, the extent to what extent does this newspaper having those kind of political ideology. Are they going to be extremely liberal or somehow liberal or just neutral or just liberal? Or maybe they are extremely conservative. You can have those kind of level, the strength. You can also do interval ratio, so you can do the frequency counts. But this number relationship, you have to interpret carefully. For example, if the words, let's go back to the novels. If the words love appears 100 times in one novel and 50 in the other one, it doesn't mean that the first novel can be like twice as romantic as the other one. Because remember I talked this before, right? It doesn't mean that it is twice better than the other one. This is also same thing. We can only say like the numbers appears twice as the other one, but you cannot conclude that the first novel is more twice romantic than the second one. Also for the attitude and opinion measure as well. So let me give you this example, continue with this example. So it's a gender stereotypes in the TV commercial. So he conducted like a content analysis about 2,200 TV commercials here in 3 major US networks. So systematically code the character types as well as the role to identify how gender was portrayed across different program types and what about the audience segment. So pick like weekday afternoon and a weekend afternoon as well as the prime time. The reason is that they have different audience characteristics because weekday afternoon, even though we are living in kind of like the balance or the quite no differences between the career, between the gender, but however, it was 1990. So it is likely that more females are less likely to work during the weekday. So it was assumed that during the weekday afternoon, those kind of programs, such as soap operas, those kind of dramas, they have the higher female viewers. And then weekend afternoon will be sports programs with higher male. That's why we select like one with the higher female, the other one with the higher male viewers. And the last one is a mixed program. We want to do it as a baseline comparison with other time slot. It can be a control group in this case. Character that they trying to code, of course, male adults, females, whether the adults are mixed gender, male adults with children or teens, no gender of the female, female adults with children or teens, no gender of the male, or mixtures, all mixed. So the way that they trying to code. They decide the categories. Here's the categories that you have to decide first. So after that, they will trying to understand about the gender composition as well as the character types that actually appear during the commercial. Is it primary? Is it the main character? How many screen time? By how many screen time they count, like how many seconds this character came out, okay, in a commercial. What are the roles there? Are these celebrities or certain someone's wife in the commercial or something? What the story is about? The product type. Now it comes to product type. Is it alcohol? Is it for women body cares, or is it for men the shaving cream, or etc.? And whether the background is about the home or the workplace, office, or maybe outside or cafe, as well as the voice narrator. Okay, you know, like in the commercial, normally you don't just see people talking, you will hear some narrator background voice, right? To introduce you about the products, what are the genders, okay, the voice. So key findings here. So he found that women appear most in the daytime, okay, in the commercial, and men were dominated the weekend. they'll be equal during the prime time, no differences. So men were more often shown as celebrity or professional, better one. Women often shown as parents, part of the family things, demonstrator, or maybe some sex objects, for promoting women's stuff. And that the weekend ads, the commercial will feature more like the car, automotive, maybe doing some business things, financial things, insurance and everything, as well as alcohol products. And then the daytime ads will focus on the home body care. So you can see the differences here, right? So women in the weekend ads rarely appear alone or in dominant role, main role, and they were frequently portrayed in more like the sexualized roles. So what we can take away from here, from this study, is that gender representation in those advertisements or the TV commercial, they actually reflects not only the differences in the product type, as well as the time slot, but also tell an important message here. It is the pervasive presence of gender stereotypes in TV ads, especially the advertising narrative, how they tell about the story in an ad. So gender stereotypes are happening as well, not only in the daily life, not only in other media content or the news, it also happens in the TV commercial, the advertisement. So second types of the methods is we're trying to analyze existing statistics. We not actually creating something new data here. We're trying to find some published data or from the official. For example, we got a lot of data, right? Last time I showed you guys before, from the government, from the institution, international organization. They have been collecting data a lot of time, and most of the time, those institutions, they actually put up the data for us to use, for the public to use. For example, the census data, crime rates, like the FBI crime rates, health records as well, labor statistics, World Banks, as well as the media user in South Korea, those kind of data. So we can actually use it. That's the secondary data that we can use. So it can serve two purposes in our research. First, it can be your main study. Just take that data and do the own study. Okay, this is something that we don't actually engage with the subjects. So we take the data from other people and we do this study. We're trying to analyze, we do the regression, trying to find relationship. And we can also use those kind of data, this part of our study, just to support my new idea or to provide more context to our original research. Because sometimes when you're trying to understand about maybe gender issues in South Korea, you may have to use some data from the census, right? Trying to analyze what are the proportion of the gender and how are their income related to this as well. Make it as kind of like support what you are going to do in the next. So of course, you might be, can we reuse those kind of statistics in our own research? That's my research. I want to do something new, but can I use their data? Is it going to be a problem? They have been doing so many things, but can I actually do it? Wouldn't be like I'll be like copy their ideas or something. No, because even the same data set has been analyzed before, you can still come up with some new research question. The way you frame your research will be only your idea. You're just using their data to analyze something that is related to your own research question. Okay, and you can also sometimes use the new method. For example, they just show you descriptive, right? Most of the time, maybe you can grab it all here and you use different types of analysis method to provide a new perspective. That is also one of the way. And you can also take those there and then you combine with other data. For example, you can take the media user in South Korea, trying to analyze how people spend their time regarding news on the different platform, and you analyze all the news headlines, okay, to see why people suddenly in this period they use more news, consume more news, and why they drop it. Is it because of the issues coming out? Are they matching the period of time? Maybe like in May, people now it's what, April. I mean, maybe it's like in April, the consumption of news increased. Why? Oh, because of the issues with South Korean presidential. Also, people are keep looking for news. You can match two of them. So you can use the news articles that are happening right now, news headline, compare the period, what is happening every single period, and compare it to the data that has been available there. Okay, that is how you combine different data. Or you can replicate or extend. They have been done like this. I want to use them, but then I want to extend it into further. Okay, but using the existing data, there are many concerns that a lot of time these kind of data are really hard, large, huge, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, maybe 10,000, and it's complicated. And the way that complicated is that they design their questionnaire so different from how the academic are using actually most of the time. So you might need certain extensive training in statistics or the programming to actually run the analysis. You have to change a lot of coding, actually. For example, things that I'm currently doing right now is that I'm trying to get the media user data from the South Korea one. The South Korea one, they have like been many years. I think it's from, I'm taking the one from 2019 until 2024. So that is what I'm doing. But the way that they create the asking the questionnaire is so different. So they ask them how many days you actually spend using the certain type of platform, weekdays, and then weekend. They separate them. So my job is I have to combine them into one variable. So I have to do a lot of like kind of like data cleaning, and they have a lot of data missing because they don't actually have certain things like everyone have to answer that question. You can say I don't know as well. So there are a lot of missing data that have to clean them and etc. So that is my experience. So, okay, when using a data with the unit of analysis being the groups, you have to be careful, right? Again, ecology fallacy. You cannot draw a conclusion about the individuals when the unit analysis is grouped. Just make sure this part, because the data that they are using might be so different from what you're trying to understand about. Okay. Replication and logical reasoning are often used to deal with problems of validity. Strength and weakness, of course, we love, costs. You save a lot of costs, and you save a lot of time to actually go collect the data. And it is what? Unobtrusive. I don't really have to go interview with the subjects. I don't really have to interact with people. So it's already there. I just take them. And as well, government data, they have a very, very good sampling design because they have money, they make it, and then they make a really good data. Then we just use it for free if they are supporting us for free. All right. But the thing is that sometimes, because I have many things that I want to do, especially I'll share with you my experience with the media user in South Korea, but they have not much other variables because the main thing that they're trying to measure is not about other things like psychology or political things. So they are mainly about how people actually use the media, how people trust about the news outlets. So there are some variables that I'm actually interested into, but I am unable to make those kind of assumption or hypothesis or research question because they did not provide that as well. So the data may not reflect what you want. Okay. And problem with the reliability and depend on the quality, okay, the quality of the statistics. So the last type is the comparative and historical research. So it is a method we're trying to understand the social units over a long time, and it can be different cultures. So this seems like it overlaps with some field research that you have to go out. Content analysis, as well as the secondary data analysis, or this type of historical comparative analysis, those kind of things is actually trying to focus on the historical development, or we can try to compare different society. And we can trace the evaluation of these social forms from rural to urban society, or from the pre-Hanliu to the current social media Hanliu or Hanliu 2.0. Okay, we can compare the whole process across different time period, across different space. You can also compare the pre-Hanliu and how the Hanliu actually happening in the West compared to the East. We can cross the space as well. Okay. Sources for the comparative and historical data. Normally, of course, you have a lot of data. Well, any available data you can actually go to get available that you can actually get and you can analyze. That will be everything. Personal records like the diary and all these, official documents, media contents, as well as the organization archive. And you have to combine. I think combine will be a better way because trying to avoid the biases, and it can also improve the reliability and validity so that you can do cross verification using different types of media or documents, but then you're trying to study one thing so that you can see, okay, oh, maybe here has something wrong, recorded wrong, but here is saying something like this. So why are there differences? And then try to verify it. So these are the sources, secondary sources. You can see the historical research literature, personal records like diaries, letters, family histories. But a lot of time, history and comparative study is something that's really huge and it will take a really long time because there are so many material that you have to cover, especially you want to study a certain long period of the social changes or the human changes, something like that. So newspaper, you will have to find all the archive, what the social values back there, cultural expectation, what are the everyday life across the whole historical periods, as well as the organization documents and the policy statements. Maybe this country has come with a new policy trying to push the Korean entertainment outside or something like this, or how is the government budgets going on with the entertainment or the foreign affairs changes. So you have to look for every single thing. A really, really huge study, but it will worth your effort. It will become a really good study. So that'll be it for today. So hope you enjoyed the video. Right. I will see you on maybe next week.